Hello there, Seraphim 17 once again. This is my Dead Space Impossible mode, no damage plus restricted run. If you're interested in the restrictions, they're in the description, and there's some really bad ones in there. If you want to do this run, guys, please leave a comment showing me that you've done so I can come and check your channel out and see what you did. Because the more people doing cool runs with Dead Space, the better YouTube is as a platform, because this is such a cool game. There's a lot of flexibility, there's a lot of creativity, and it's also very dynamic. But this puzzle here, at the beginning of Chapter 9, Dead on Arrival, is a 0G puzzle featuring, I think there is a leaper and a lurker in this sequence, but they're not enhanced. And you're gonna get some wonderful quotes from me in this guide where I say stuff like, oh, they're not black, and the bad ones are the black ones, and things of that nature. And of course, there's gonna be somebody childish out there that takes that out of context, but fundamentally, the black necromorphs, the enhanced necromorphs, are incredibly dangerous. And whenever you fight the white ones are like skinny, scrawny, slow, and weak, so it just makes it a lot easier, you know? And speaking as a skinny, scrawny, and weak white one, I do agree with this notion. It is Cracker approved. But this mission is kind of interesting, but I disagree with it. I think you should be able to set all those balls on that door, and then when you press that button, they should all get sucked out into space. I think that would just be a better way of doing it, but you can't do that. I actually tried to do that coming back. And instead, they want you to just pick them all up manually and fire them out, because the detection here is really bad. And every so often, I think more enemies spawn on this sequence. There we go, a black one. So this leaper, this one you don't fuck with. The other one is fine. This guy, he will eat you for breakfast, shit you out, and then eat you again. Like, this is where this gets really scary. So, use your movement as best as you can to get away from these dudes. And you could just do this puzzle and get out of dodge. Because there's such a big area that you can move between, you don't have to kill these guys. And I only started killing him then because I don't like that creature. Like, I think this is the most dangerous enemy in Dead Space 1. Some of the stuff this guy can do is insane. And he just takes so much damage. And I don't agree with it either. I don't agree that an enemy that fast should be that tanky. But I suppose that's the reason why they're so dangerous and so memorable, because here he comes, by the way. So at any moment, guys, if you dally around, he's going to find you. And you don't want anything to do with it. And because telekinesis is so fucking slow and so bloody worthless in this game, you're going to spend more time waiting for some object to reach you than you are anything else. And being slow in this game leads you to death. The one advantage that Isaac has is he's pretty quick for a survival horror like a protagonist. And I think something that would have been interesting here is if you could fire the radioactive material at the creatures and do tons of damage, but it doesn't seem like it does any more damage than anything else. And of course the game's trying to give me force gun energy, because why would I not want energy for a gun I don't own and have never purchased? Try and grab the ball, get it out of there, and then we can go on to the next sequence, which is going to introduce the Twitcher. I think I called him a tweaker in the earlier video, which is apropos because he tweaks as well. The enemy coming up is completely busted, completely broken. Really broken enemy. And I love them, but I just don't think they suit the game. And it's really funny because they're scary, so they suit that, but mechanically, they stand out as an enemy that is just kinda not really in the pantheon of anything remotely close to being fair. And if you don't know, guys, the Twitchers are faster than you are. They're faster when you chop their legs off. They crawl faster than any creature in this game moves. They move faster when they're crawling with one leg than the hunter moves, and he moves really quickly. And because of this, you can't cap their leg and have them be less of an issue. You have to kill them. And you can't run away from them either, because they'll cut you off because they're so fast. And I like the fact that they exist because they are such a problematic enemy, but they're the enemy that seems almost designed for you to stasis them. So if you're not using stasis, you're going to come up against these dudes and it's going to change how you view them. And this creature didn't come back in the sequels for some reason. I think it's because they didn't think they could balance it correctly and they are kind of busted. But if you play the DLC Severed for Dead Space 2, they came back in that. And that's one of the reasons I really like that DLC, even though apparently a lot of people hate it. Speaking of, this is them here. The first one turns up right there. Again, they work the exact same as necromorphs. However, because they're so quick, they're incredibly problematic. This room has gravity wells, and I'm going to try and use these. This room took me forever, guys, and when I finally did it, I had to do it again, because I got hit coming up in the next room and there was no checkpoint, and I got really mad at that. But the idea is I'm going to get in this room and I'm going to do my best to make sure all these guys kill themselves. But it's so difficult to do because of how fast they are. And if you're not confident with necromorphs, this is going to be really challenging because this enemy doesn't care. It's that fast. It just moves like lightning. It's always on your ass and it's super dangerous. But it must be said, as much as this was really frustrating, I appreciated the challenge. And then we have, I think this room has a couple of infectors. And again, guys, if you move the bodies or if you break the bodies, the infectors don't really have much to do. So these guys are going to come for me because they've got nothing to do. I don't remember what I did to the bodies because I haven't kept that in the video, but you can tell when an infector attacks Isaac, it's because there's nobody to infect. And you can do something as simple as take the bodies into a different room. It's entirely up to you. But there goes that one, and here comes the next one. And again, if you had Stasis here, you could Stasis him and stamp on him and just kill him that way, and save all the ammunition I'm using. There are a couple of items in the room to throw at these guys, and you can do that, but it takes an eternity, and I don't really want to have my videos filled with me throwing items at dudes repeatedly. Because as funny as it is the first time, and as dumb as it is like the second time, it gets old really quick. But there goes the double infectors, and now we've got a big audio stinger, as a splitter turns up and an exploder, but we have more grav wells, and see you later. This guy's going to get absolutely just deconstructed. You can hear a vent going through as well. There's another exploder. Wait for it. Wait for it. There we go. I feel like that should have killed them all personally, but it didn't. And then we have the laser room, which I never remembered. So I made a little fail video for this room if you didn't see it on the channel, and I was really smitten with that video because I thought it was really silly. Definitely worth checking out. But this room really made me sad for Callisto Protocol, because in Callisto Protocol, the game almost never really deviates from a set structure of a very rigid game design, and it never has these flourishes or these moments of interesting and unique moments. Dead Space has them in spades, and that's one of them. You will never see another room with a laser in it like that. And this room here is such a clever room, because not only does it give you an option of an environmental hazard, but it also gives you a tool to use against the necromorphs. You can start a spawn and bait them into this laser, and this laser will do the work for you. And coming into this room after a few years and seeing this, it set my imagination just soaring about all the cool things that Callisto's Black Iron Prison was going to do. And then you play that game and you realise the only thing it does is vents, ladders, lifts, shimmyable walls, and that's it. Like, it's almost entirely creatively redundant. And I don't know why. And it makes me so sad, because it could have been so good, and instead we got nothing. We got less than nothing, dude. And then you have this game, 14 years ago, coming up with these novelty gimmicks every so often, keeping everything fresh and interesting. Unbelievable. Unbelievable video game. That remake has got a tall order as well to follow this, because even if that remake's the best thing in the world, what the hell are they... Oh, here it is, guys. Here's the clip, by the way. It actually made the video. So, yeah, that was kind of weird. I didn't know what was going on. But he dropped ammunition, which I was happy to see. Always good to get some plasma cutter rounds. And there's a couple of items in that room that you can open, but every time I did it, it gave me money, so I just didn't open them. I actually died to that laser as well once, which was frustrating. But I like that this ship doesn't throw standard necromorphs at you too frequently. The fights so far have been a splitter, have been a bunch of exploders, and it's been a bunch of twitchers, which I think is really cool, because it's all the enemies you don't see that often. And you know what? Oh my goodness, this room sucks. So this is a really, really, really hard room. I nearly did this room on like the third attempt, and then I died right at the end because I got hit by a lurker I didn't see. And then I had to do this like a dozen more times. And it's not hard, but it's easy to take damage when you don't have any ammo. And my problem is I'm trying to use the gravity wells. If you come in here and you've got a decent stack of rounds, just murder everybody, you'll do it one attempt. It's not a big deal. If you try to get creative here, this room gets really, really awkward. Because they have a lot of enemies. We have lurkers, pregnants, twitchers, and we also have a leaper in the background. Like, they throw almost everything at you here, which is really cool. And the grav wells are definitely going to help, but they're kind of awkward to use. So here's another leaper. He's going to try and run towards you and hit you with his tail, but if you keep sprinting, he can't get you. And one of the cool things about Leapers is if you stand near the wells, when they jump at you, they often go through the wells and kill themselves. But do you see the Twitcher there? He is so fast on the ground, it doesn't even matter. So shooting his leg is almost pointless. Like, unless you want to get a guaranteed stun to flinch him, shooting his leg is almost like a compliment, because he's so fast. But you need to understand where you are. See, that was the lurker dying to the gravity well when he was on the wall. And the strategy to get that to happen, guys, if you didn't see what happened, is when he's on the wall, if he opens his tentacles near them, if the tentacle hitbox overlaps, he'll die. And that's all you're waiting for. It's a really good way of saving ammunition. But what happens in this room is weird. So I do the room, and then I'm getting the ammunition, and then when I come back in the room, there's more enemies. And I don't know why. I don't know why it did this. It was like a passive ambient spawn of some sort. And it spawned lurkers, and I think it spawned a leaper. And I've done this room a few times recently. And I didn't see that on one of those other times when I did it, so I don't know why it actually did that. But if you're playing along with this run, and you're doing it yourself, and you're like, whoa, I didn't have these guys, it's probably because you did it faster than I did. I think lingering made them spawn. And I love that. I think that's a cool idea, but I just don't understand it. And that's one of the things that bugs me the most about video games, when there's just not that much information about them on the internet. Oh, that sucked. Why did that not kill him? Damn, you lucky bugger. Luckily, he's really weak, and then we get another exploder here. See you later. And then there's just that pregnant guy moving around in the distance. The reason I took his leg is because he seems to have problems when you're at a distance from him. And if you take his leg, he never really does much. And look at that, the AI's having problems on the Twitcher. He's just running in circles. He'll come though, don't you worry. Here he is, he's seen me now. And if you hit him with a body, you'll knock him back. So I shoot him to get his attention, and I'm going to try and force him into the well here. And he just ignores it. Look at that, what a scary enemy, dude. If you don't shoot them at the right time, you will not get the flinch. But we're coming up on the end of this. Here's another leaper. He might jump at me. There we go, he's killed himself. Perfect. That is exactly what you want the leapers to do. And then here we go, it's another Twitcher. And if I can stun him, he's dead as well. So that was good as well. That is exactly what you want. And then behind me just then, did you hear it? Exploder. Ideally, here, I should have took his arm and killed him, and then carried his explosive sack for whatever comes next. But piece of trivia for the people that like to know the behind the scenes, on my failed attempt when I nearly did it, like the second attempt, I was holding an exploder's sack at the end, and I fired it at somebody, and I was too close to them, and it hit me. And I didn't get mad when I was recording this, and that's bullshit, that. I did not hit that dude's stomach then, I'm sorry. But luckily, he died near the grav well, and the well got rid of a bunch of those lurkers. But he's a rare enemy, him, because he literally releases lurkers. And I don't know how many others actually do that, because I tend to avoid the pregnants. But I go back here, only one of them died though. I go back here and I save, and this is when I go back in and it spawns that leaper. And just then, guys, I edited out me coming in this room and manipulating all the openable lockers so that I could maximize ammunition. And all I'm going to do here is throw bodies at this guy, just to frustrate him, because he frustrates me. And I'm hoping he goes towards the well so I can dump him in it. But you need to be really careful, because if he comes towards you, he'll just jump on you. And I'm going to dodge his little projectile here. And look at that for a lucky drop. Didn't even need to manipulate it. Got my plasma cutter rounds. Very happy. But if this had been a room in Callisto Protocol, every single one of these walls would have had those IKEA spikes all over it. This would have looked like an area for like patio lattices. Like some kind of harmful anti-child patio lattices just on every goddamn wall. And you would have just gone grip, dead, grip, dead, grip, dead, grip, dead, fight over. And you know it wouldn't have been a long fight, because the longest fight in Callisto Protocol is on top of that moving vehicle where you fight like 10 to 12 of the biophage, and then you take on your first boss against the two-headed dude. But this is... I went back and saved again, guys, because I got the ammunition. And it's so interesting, isn't it, watching somebody ignore all the stuff on the ground. I wonder if there's anybody watching this being like, oh my goodness, you need to pick that up. Because it's funny, isn't it? Believe it or not, folks, when I've done these projects in the past, I've had people that have explained to me in depth on the comments, very innocently, how to upgrade. Like, they've told me how to spend my money, they've told me how to make my character stronger and things, and I don't think they realised that I was intentionally not doing that. Like, on the Metal Gear Rising clips I put up on some of those fail videos, people were telling me how to use moves I literally couldn't use because they were banned in my restrictions, but they didn't realise. And it's kind of innocent, isn't it, and funny when people watch something and they're like, why is he not doing this, why is he not doing that? There was a comment on one of the videos yesterday that essentially just said, wow, I don't get why you do this. just straight up, like, why do you do this? He just didn't understand. And I guess I don't understand that, you know? It's one of those interesting things, isn't it? I do this because I love doing it, you know? This is fun for me. I love this game, I want to cover this game, and I want to share it with the internet, and that's why I do it. But to him, doing this is probably the last thing in the world he'd ever want to do. But look at all the fucking enemies right now, what is going on? Does anybody know what happens with this spawn? Does anybody know why all these leapers are turning up? Because the fight's over, the decontamination's done. Where are these guys coming from? And I could have edited this out and just been like, oh, the fight was over, I won. But I wanted to show this because it was like, what is going on? That's one of the advantages, though, of doing a run like this. You get very comfortable of being around the enemies without panicking and without worrying. Like, I can do this all day. I'm not scared of this guy at all. And he's dead now. And I think that's it. I think that's the end of the encounter. But that went on for a while, and then they give me Ripper Blades, a gun I do not have. And if you want to do a more difficult version of this run, guys, use the Ripper. Because objectively, the Ripper is the weakest gun in the game. I don't agree, because I think the utility of it is so good, it actually comes in swathes, and it's really, really, really useful. But if you look at the damage statistics, the two weapons that seem to be most sus at times are the Flamethrower and the Ripper. Specifically the Ripper, it has the weakest statistical damage. The Flamethrower does tons of damage to certain monsters, especially the Leviathan, ironically enough. But now we have our first enhanced brute, our first black brute. And the room above just then, guys, I've edited it out because it's fucking dog shit, but that room was harder than any fight in this game. And it wasn't because it's difficult, it's because I was so annoyed at it, I didn't want to do it. The detection on the fire upstairs is so goddamn bad, you spend more time thinking you're safe and getting set on fire than you do anything else. It's the opposite of fun. What the fuck were they thinking? Terrible room. But here comes the big lad. And you've seen this before, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to manipulate the brute so I can take his arm, and then I'm going to use his own projectiles to kill him. The difference here is he's going to take almost twice as many hits because he is indeed enhanced. I love how the fire looks in this area as well. This game has some of the nicest looking fire for like an old school 360 game I've ever seen. I just love it. What a beautiful effect. It would have been nice if this fight had more dynamics to it, if you could have him like charge into some of the engines or whatever these things are in this room, into some of these machines. Like, he just charged into them and something happened, but fundamentally it's just the exact same fight as everything else. And I think that's one of the weaknesses of Dead Space, if you have to really pick faults with the series. I don't think they ever really developed the Brute. The Brute is literally a berserker from Gears of War. That's what it is, you know? You can't even say it's like Nemesis from Resident Evil, because Nemesis is dynamic and he follows you and he chases you and he has different phases and different forms, and, you know... The only thing they have in common is they're both these enemies that have got, you know, tons of health and are very intimidating. And I would have loved to see the Brute, like, mutate into something different over the series. I'd love to see versions and variants of the Brute, and I apologise if Dead Space 3 has a version and a variant of the Brute that I don't remember, but I don't remember Dead Space 3 because it's a terrible video game and I fucking hate it. But it would have been cool to see this guy get a little bit more. And, you know, I want them to keep the standard guy, because I think he's a classic, isn't he? This guy's practically like Levi's jeans. You know, you can't get rid of the blue jeans, it built the franchise. Be very careful standing close to this guy as well, because he moves so fast. But just imagine coming up against a Brute and being like, oh, okay, I shoot his arms and, you know, and then I fire back his projectile. And then something completely different happens. Like, can you imagine if he shot his arms and then he grew wings and he started chasing you down? That shit'd be crazy. But there goes the Brute, and there's his backflip. The obligatory backflip. And now we're moving into a new room, which has got some wonderful architecture. I love the slats. And then we have Twitchers. Twitchers, tweakers, methamphetamine dealers. I don't know who this guy is, but he's about to die. This monster's nuts. He's a fantastic gymnast, though. Thank you for watching, guys. And you take care now.